This Christmas, she didn't just discover a secret, she became unstoppable.
The box was wrapped in shiny red paper with a perfect gold bow on top. It was Christmas Eve, and I should have been happy, but my hand was shaking as I held that gift I'd found hidden in the back of my husband's closet. There was no tag with my name on it. Actually, there was no name at all. And something in my gut told me I shouldn't open it. But I did. My name is Minzo, and I used to believe in happy endings. I grew up in Vancouver, where the streets fill with Christmas lights in December, and the smell of pine mixes with the scent of tukuk my mother always made. I married Daniel 8 years ago, in a small ceremony near Stanley Park. He was everything I'd ever wanted. Kind, thoughtful, and he always brought me coffee in the morning before I woke up. Or at least that's how I remembered him. That Christmas Eve morning, I woke up alone. Daniel had left early to handle some things at the office. That's what he always said lately. Just some things, Min. I'll be back soon. But soon was never really soon. I was used to it now. The cold feeling of the sheet beside me, the silence of the house that used to be filled with laughter. I decided to clean out his closet. I don't know why. Maybe it was my way of feeling useful, of filling the empty hours. I was organizing his shirts when I saw the box pushed to the back, behind a stack of old shoes. Red, shiny, festive. My heart raced. It was Christmas Eve, after all. Maybe it was my gift. I picked up the box carefully, like it might burn my hands. It was light. I shook it slightly and heard something moving inside. Fabric, maybe. My fingers worked at the bow, slowly, savoring the moment, because part of me still wanted to believe, still wanted to think my husband loved me, that everything was fine, that this distance between us was just a phase. The paper tore easily. Inside was a plain white box. No brand, no logo, just white and clean. I took a deep breath and lifted the lid. It was lingerie, black, lacy, delicate, the kind of thing you buy when you want to impress someone, the kind of thing my husband had never given me. I picked it up, feeling the soft fabric between my fingers, and that's when I saw it. A small tag still attached, size medium. I wear size small. I always have. My hands started shaking. I put the lingerie back in the box, but there was something else at the bottom. A card. Small, white, with embossed gold lettering. I turned it over slowly, even though I already knew I wouldn't want to see what was written there. To my only one. Merry Christmas. D. I sat there on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by my husband's clothes, holding evidence of his affair in my lap. The heating ticked on, and I could hear it humming through the vents. But I felt cold, so cold. Outside, snow was starting to fall. Through our window, I could see our neighbors hanging their stockings, their kids running around in the yard. Everything looked so normal, so perfect. And here I was, holding the ruins of my marriage in a gift box. I should have cried. That's what people do in moments like this, right? But I didn't. Instead, I felt this strange calm wash over me, like I'd been waiting for this moment, preparing for it without even knowing. All those late nights at the office, all those business trips, all those times he'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. I heard the garage door open. Daniel was home. I quickly put the box back exactly where I'd found it, shoved behind the shoes, and closed the closet door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection stared back at me. Same dark eyes, same black hair pulled into a messy bun, same Mincio I'd always been. But something had changed. Something fundamental had shifted. "Men? You home?" Daniel's voice echoed from downstairs. I took a breath and walked out of the bedroom. He was in the kitchen, setting down bags from Whole Foods. He looked good. He always looked good. Tall, with that easy smile that had made me fall for him in the first place. His dark hair was slightly messy from the wind, and there was snow melting on his jacket. "Hey, babe," he said, walking over to kiss my cheek. "Got everything we need for tomorrow. Your mom's still coming at 2, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, 2 o'clock." He didn't notice anything wrong, didn't see the way my hands were clenched at my sides, didn't feel the rage bubbling just beneath my skin. He just smiled and started unpacking the groceries like it was any other day, like he hadn't just destroyed everything we'd built together. "I got that good kimchi from H-Mart," he said, "the one your mom likes, and I grabbed some eggnog. Thought we could do something festive tonight." Festive. Right. Because nothing says festive like finding out your husband's cheating on you on Christmas Eve. "That sounds great," I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal, calm, like I wasn't screaming inside. Daniel kept talking about his day, about some client meeting that ran long, about traffic on the highway. I watched his mouth move, forming words that meant nothing. Lies, probably. All lies. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? Was I the only one who didn't know? Did our friends know? Did my family suspect? The thoughts spiraled in my head, but I kept my face neutral. I learned that from my mother. She used to say, "In Korea, we learn to keep our faces calm even when our hearts are breaking. It's a survival skill." I never understood what she meant until now. "You okay?" Daniel asked, and for a second I thought he actually cared. "You seem quiet." "Just tired," I said. "Didn't sleep well." He nodded and went back to putting away groceries. Didn't push, didn't ask why. That was Daniel. He never pushed, never asked the hard questions. Maybe that's why our marriage had fallen apart without either of us noticing. That night, we sat on the couch watching some Christmas movie. His arm was around my shoulders, and I could smell his cologne, the one I'd bought him last year. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching my life from outside my body. On the TV, a couple was falling in love. They were laughing, kissing under mistletoe, promising forever. I wanted to throw the remote through the screen. "Remember our first Christmas?" Daniel said suddenly. "We drove up to Whistler and got snowed in at that little cabin." I remembered. We'd made love by the fireplace, drank too much wine, talked about having kids someday. It felt like a lifetime ago, like it had happened to different people. "Yeah," I said. "I remember." He squeezed my shoulder, and I felt sick. How could he touch me like this? How could he pretend everything was fine when he had a gift for another woman hidden in our closet? My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Jihei. "Merry Christmas Eve. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Jihei and her husband, Marcus, were coming over for Christmas dinner. They'd been our closest friends since college. Jihei had been the one who introduced me to Daniel at a party in Koreatown. She'd said, "Min, this is Daniel. He's perfect for you." And I believed her. I'd believed everything back then. I texted back a Christmas tree emoji and a heart. Simple, safe. If I started typing actual words, I might tell her everything. And I wasn't ready for that, not yet. Daniel fell asleep on the couch around 11. His head was tilted back, mouth slightly open, completely relaxed. I sat there watching him, this man I'd promised to spend my life with, and I didn't recognize him anymore. Or maybe I was just finally seeing him clearly for the first time. I got up quietly and went back to the bedroom. I opened his closet and pulled out the box again. I needed to look at it one more time, needed to make sure I hadn't imagined it. But it was real. The lingerie was real. The card was real. The betrayal was real.
I sat on the floor and cried, not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet tears that rolled down my cheeks and dripped onto the carpet. I cried for the life I thought I had, for the husband I thought I knew, for the future I'd imagined. I cried for myself, for being so blind, so stupid, so trusting. But even as the tears fell, something else was building inside me, something darker, something that whispered that crying wouldn't fix this, that being sad wouldn't change anything, that I needed to be smart, not emotional. I thought about my grandmother, my halmoni, who'd survived the Korean War. She used to tell me stories about how women had to be clever to survive, how they had to smile at soldiers while hiding food for their children, how they learned to keep secrets behind pleasant faces, how strength wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was quiet. Sometimes it was patient. Sometimes it was waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. I wiped my tears and looked at the lingerie again. Size medium, not my size. I picked up the card and read it one more time. To my only one. The words burned into my brain. His handwriting, his signature, his betrayal wrapped up in a pretty box with a gold bow. But then something shifted. The sadness hardened into something else. Anger. Pure, white-hot anger that started in my stomach and spread through my whole body like fire. He thought he could do this to me? He thought he could have his perfect little wife at home and his mistress on the side? He thought he could give her gifts and romance while I sat here waiting for him every night? He thought I was stupid enough, trusting enough, pathetic enough to never find out?
No, I wasn't going to just roll over and take this. I wasn't going to be the pathetic wife who forgives and forgets and pretends everything's fine because it's easier than facing the truth. I wasn't going to be the woman who loses her husband and her dignity at the same time. I was going to find out who she was. I was going to find out everything. Every lie, every secret, every moment they'd stolen from my marriage. And then I was going to make him pay. Not with tears, not with yelling, but with something better. Something that would hurt him the way he'd hurt me. I put the box back exactly where I'd found it, making sure everything looked untouched. I closed the closet door and wiped my tears. Tomorrow was Christmas. My mother was coming over. Jihi and Marcus would be there. We'd eat dinner, exchange gifts, pretend to be a happy family. And I'd smile through all of it. Because Daniel wasn't the only one who could play pretend. I'd been playing the role of happy wife for months without even knowing it. What was one more day? I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were red, but that was okay. I could say I was tired, that I'd been cutting onions, that the cold weather was bothering me. I could lie just as easily as he could. Maybe I was better at it. Maybe I'd been trained my whole life for this moment. All those years of Korean school where they taught us to be polite, to never show negative emotions, to always present a perfect face to the world. My mother's constant reminders to smile, to be grateful, to never complain. It had all been preparing me for this. I crawled back into bed. Daniel was still sleeping, completely peaceful, completely unaware that his world was about to change. I looked at his face in the darkness. The face I'd kissed 1,000 times. The face I'd trusted completely. The face that had been lying to me for months. How many times had he kissed me after being with her? How many times had he told me he loved me while planning his next rendezvous? How many times had I been a complete fool? Sleep didn't come easy. I lay there for hours, my mind racing through everything. Every late night at work, every business trip, every time he'd been too tired to make love, every moment that should have been a red flag but I'd ignored because I wanted to believe in us. Because I wanted to believe in love. Because I wanted to believe I was enough. The next morning, Christmas Day, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Daniel was already up, humming in the kitchen. I could hear him opening and closing cabinets, the sound of plates clinking together. He was making breakfast. Probably felt guilty. Probably wanted to do something nice for his wife before going back to his mistress.
When I walked downstairs, he had the whole spread ready. Pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, everything perfect, like always. The table was even set with our nice dishes, the ones we only use for special occasions. There were flowers in a vase. White roses, my favorite. Or they used to be my favorite. Now they just looked like guilt. "Merry Christmas, Min," he said, walking over to kiss my forehead. His lips felt like ice. "I wanted to make your favorite. Start the day right." I looked at the food, at his smiling face, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab those plates and throw them against the wall. I wanted to ask him if his mistress liked pancakes too, if he made her breakfast after spending the night together, if she got flowers and perfect mornings, and all the things that used to be mine. Instead, I smiled back. "This looks amazing. Thank you."
We sat down and ate. He talked about the weather, about how much snow we'd gotten, about whether the roads would be clear for my mother. Small talk, safe talk, the kind of conversation strangers have. I realized that's what we'd become, strangers who shared a bed and a last name and nothing else. I cut into my pancakes mechanically, bringing the fork to my mouth, chewing, swallowing, tasting nothing. Everything was ash. The bacon that used to be my favorite, the syrup he'd warmed just the way I liked it, the fresh strawberries he'd sliced perfectly. All of it meant nothing now. Daniel kept glancing at his phone. Every few minutes, his eyes would dart to the screen, sitting face down next to his plate. Was she texting him? Was she sending him good morning messages, telling him she missed him, asking when she'd see him again? Was he itching to respond? To tell her he loved her? To make plans for their next secret meeting? The thought made my stomach turn, but I forced myself to keep eating, to keep pretending, to keep playing the role of oblivious wife. "You seem distracted," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "Everything okay?" He looked up quickly, almost guilty. Yeah, just thinking about work. Got a lot to wrap up before the new year." Work. Right. That's what he called her now. Work. The convenient excuse that covered everything. Every late night, every weekend trip, every moment stolen from our marriage. I wondered how many times he'd used that excuse. How many lies I'd swallowed without question because I trusted him, because I believed in us, because I was too stupid to see what was right in front of me. "You work too hard," I said softly, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "You should take some time off, rest, be present." He squeezed my hand and I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt? Regret? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? Maybe he felt nothing. Maybe I was just an obligation now, something to manage until he could finally be with her. "I will," he said. "After the New Year's, I'll take some time. We could do something together. Maybe a trip?" A trip. How generous. One last vacation before he destroyed my life. One final performance of happy marriage before he asked for a divorce. I wanted to laugh at the audacity. Instead, I smiled. "That sounds nice. Where were you thinking?" "I don't know. Somewhere warm, maybe? Get away from all this snow?" Not Whistler, then, because Whistler was reserved for her. Whistler was where he'd take his mistress, where they'd create new memories in the place that used to be ours. I was getting somewhere warm, somewhere generic, somewhere that didn't matter. "Let's talk about it after the holidays," I said, pulling my hand back. "We should probably get ready. Mom will be here soon." He nodded and stood up, clearing the dishes. I watched him move around our kitchen, this man I'd built a life with, and I felt nothing but cold rage. How dare he? How dare he stand there washing dishes and talking about trips and pretending he wasn't actively destroying everything we'd built? How dare he be so calm, so normal, so completely unbothered by his betrayal? I excused myself and went upstairs to get dressed. I stood in our closet, the same closet where I'd found the box, and I stared at my clothes. What does a woman wear to Christmas dinner when she knows her marriage is over? What outfit says, "I'm fine," when everything is falling apart? I chose a red sweater because that's what people wear on Christmas. Red for joy, red for celebration, red for all the lies we tell ourselves to get through the day. As I pulled it over my head, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked the same face, same body,
same Mincio I'd always been. But I didn't feel the same. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. The woman staring back at me wasn't the trusting wife anymore. She was someone harder, someone angrier, someone who wouldn't go down without a fight. I heard Daniel in the shower, humming some song I didn't recognize. He sounded happy, content, like this was just another day, like he hadn't spent last night probably texting his mistress while I slept beside him, like he wasn't planning to leave me in just a few days. The humming made something snap inside me. I walked to the bathroom door and stood there, listening. Part of me wanted to burst in, to confront him right there, to demand answers, but I didn't, because I wasn't ready, not yet.
Instead, I went back downstairs and started preparing for my mother's arrival. I set out the nice plates, the ones we'd gotten as wedding gifts. Each plate felt like a memory. Our wedding day, my mother crying happy tears, Daniel's parents welcoming me into their family, all of us believing in forever, all of us so naive. My phone buzzed. A text from Jihei. Can't wait for tonight, bringing Marcus's famous eggnog. Should I bring anything else? I stared at the message. Sweet, innocent Jihei, who still believed in love, who still thought Daniel and I were the perfect couple, who had no idea that the marriage she'd helped create was crumbling. I typed back, just yourselves, can't wait to see you both. 3 exclamation points. That's what happy people use. That's what people who aren't dying inside send to their friends. I was getting good at this, good at lying, good at pretending. Maybe I'd learned from the best. Daniel came downstairs, looking fresh and handsome in his navy sweater and jeans. He smelled like his cologne, the expensive one I'd bought him for his birthday. Had he worn it for her too? Had she buried her face in his neck and breathed it in, thinking she was special, thinking she was the only one? You look beautiful, he said, kissing my cheek. The kiss felt like a betrayal, like every touch between us now was tainted, contaminated by his lies. Thank you, I said. You clean up nice yourself. We stood there in our living room, a couple playing at being a couple, and I wondered if he felt it too. The distance, the disconnect, the way we'd become actors in our own lives, reading lines we no longer believed in. The doorbell rang. My mother, early as promised, her arms loaded with enough food to feed 20 people. She burst through the door in a flurry of Korean greetings in Tupperware containers, immediately taking over the kitchen. Daniel helped her, speaking his broken Korean, making her laugh. She adored him, thought he was the perfect son-in-law, thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. Minso-ya, she said, pulling me aside while Daniel carried food to the kitchen. You're so quiet today. Are you feeling okay? Just tired, Emma. I lied. Didn't sleep well. She studied my face with those knowing mother eyes. You've been looking tired a lot lately. Are you pregnant? Is that why you're so pale? The question hit me like a punch. Pregnant? We'd talked about having kids. Years ago, when we still made love regularly, when he still looked at me like he was my whole world. But it had been months since we'd been intimate, months since he'd touched me with anything resembling passion, because he was getting that somewhere else now. No, Emma, I said quietly, I'm not pregnant. She frowned. You should see a doctor. Make sure everything is working right. You're not getting any younger, you know. Your cousin Ji-young just had her 3rd baby. You're already 32. I know how old I am, I said, more sharply than I intended. She looked hurt, and I immediately felt guilty. She was just being my mother, just caring in the way Korean mothers do, with nagging and comparison and constant worry. She didn't know that her advice was landing on open wounds. That talk of babies and future was salt in cuts she couldn't see. I'm sorry, I said, softer now. I'm just stressed with the holidays. Work has been busy. She patted my hand. I understand, but don't wait too long, okay? Children are a blessing. They make a marriage stronger. or they trap you in a marriage that's already dead. But I didn't say that. I just nodded and helped her arrange food on the table. Jihei and Marcus arrived exactly on time, their arms full of presents and Marcus's famous eggnog. Jihei looked radiant in a green dress that made her skin glow. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, her happiness almost suffocating. Marcus shook Daniel's hand and clapped him on the back, the easy camaraderie of men who'd been friends for years. We all settled into the living room, the conversation flowing easily. My mother dominated as usual, telling stories about her church friends, about sales at H Mart, about the neighbor who decorated his house with so many lights it looked like a casino. Everyone laughed, everyone drank, everyone played their parts perfectly. I watched Daniel throughout the evening, watched how he smiled at my mother, how he joked with Marcus, how he complimented Jihei's dress. He was good, so good. No one would ever suspect. No one would look at him and think, here's a man who's betraying his wife. Here's a man who's planning to abandon his marriage. Here's a man who's living a double life. But I knew, and knowing changed everything. It was like I'd put on special glasses that let me see beneath his mask. I noticed how he checked his phone every time it buzzed, how he excused himself to the bathroom twice, staying just a bit too long, how his smile didn't quite reach his eyes when he looked at me. All the little tells I'd been missing for months were suddenly crystal clear. "Present time," Jihei announced after we'd eaten, her voice bright with excitement. We gathered around the tree and I felt sick. Presents, symbols of love and thoughtfulness, evidence of how well we knew each other. Except Daniel didn't know me anymore, and I was realizing I'd never really known him. He handed out gifts with the confidence of a man who had nothing to hide. My mother received a silk scarf that made her tear up. Jihei and Marcus got the wine set they'd mentioned wanting. And then he turned to me. "For my beautiful wife," he said, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. Everyone leaned forward. My mother had tears already forming. Jihei was grinning like this was the most romantic thing she'd ever seen. Daniel opened the box to reveal a delicate gold necklace with a small diamond heart pendant. "It's beautiful," I said automatically. The words felt hollow. "Thank you." "Let me put it on you," he said, moving behind me. His fingers brushed my neck as he clasped it, and I fought the urge to flinch. The necklace felt heavy, like chains, like evidence of his guilt. This was his alibi, his proof that he was a good husband. Look how much I love my wife. Look at this thoughtful gift. No one would suspect a man who buys jewelry for his wife is planning to leave her. "It's stunning," Jihei gushed. "Daniel, you have such good taste." "She deserves the best," he said, kissing the top of my head. I touched the pendant, feeling the weight of it against my skin. How much had it cost? A few $100? 1,000? What was the going rate for easing your conscience these days? What was the price of buying yourself a few more weeks of comfortable lies? "My turn," I said, reaching for the gift I'd wrapped for him weeks ago. It was a watch, an expensive one, automatic movement, sapphire crystal, the kind of thing he'd been eyeing for months. I'd bought it back in October, back when I still believed in us, back when I thought this Christmas would just be another milestone in our happy life together. Now it felt like a sick joke. A watch for a man who'd been stealing time from our marriage, a symbol of forever for a relationship that was ending. "Min, this is too much," he said, but his eyes lit up as he opened it. "You deserve it," I said, and meant it ironically. "You work so hard." He put it on immediately, showing it off to Marcus, talking about the craftsmanship, the brand, how he'd always wanted one. He looked genuinely happy, genuinely grateful. How was he so good at this? How could he accept my gift knowing what he was about to do to me? The rest of the evening passed in a blur. More food, more drinks, more laughter that sounded distant and hollow to my ears. My mother told stories about my father, getting emotional as she always did around the holidays. Daniel held my hand and squeezed it in sympathy, playing the supportive husband. Jihei and Marcus cuddled on the love seat, stealing kisses, completely absorbed in each other. I sat there, among these people I loved, and I felt completely alone, isolated by knowledge no one else had, trapped in a reality no one else could see. They were all living in the version of my life where everything was fine, where Daniel was faithful and our marriage was solid and Christmas was magical. But I was living in the truth, and the truth was cold and sharp and unforgiving. Around 9, my mother started gathering her things. She hugged me tight, whispering in my ear, "You're blessed, Minseonia. Daniel is a good man. Don't take him for granted." The irony almost made me laugh. I wasn't taking him for granted. He was taking me for granted, taking my trust, my loyalty, my love, and throwing it all away for someone younger and newer and more exciting. "I won't, Oma," I said. "Drive safe." Jihei and Marcus left shortly after, both tipsy and giggly, promising to see us for New Year's. Jihei hugged me extra tight, whispering, "Are you okay? You seem off tonight." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." "Call me tomorrow," she insisted. "Let's do lunch." I nodded, knowing I wouldn't, because if I saw her tomorrow, if she looked at me with those concerned eyes and asked the right questions, I might break. I might tell her everything, and I wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready for the pity, the anger on my behalf, the inevitable drama that would follow. Daniel and I cleaned up in silence. He loaded the dishwasher while I put away leftovers. We moved around each other like choreographed dancers, years of marriage teaching us how to share space efficiently. It should have felt comfortable, familiar. Instead, it felt like a performance. 2 actors cleaning up after the show, both counting down the minutes until they could drop the act. "That was nice," he said, wiping down the counter. "Your mom seemed really happy." "She was," I agreed. "She loves Christmas." "She loves you," he said. "She's proud of you, of us." The word us felt like a lie. There was no us anymore. There was him and her, and me, the obstacle standing between them and their happy ending. "I'm going to bed," I announced suddenly. "I'm exhausted." "Yeah, I'll be up soon," he said. "Just want to check a few emails." Emails, right. More lies, more convenient excuses to talk to her, to plan their Whistler trip, to count down the days until he could finally be free of me. I went upstairs and got ready for bed mechanically. Washed my face, brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas. Everything automatic. My body going through motions while my mind raced. I needed a plan. Needed to figure out my next move. Because I wasn't just going to wait for him to drop the bomb, wasn't going to let him control the narrative, wasn't going to be the pathetic wife who got blindsided by a divorce she didn't see coming. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to him move around downstairs. I heard his soft murmur of his voice. He was on the phone. Talking to her, probably. Telling her about his day, about how hard it was to pretend, about how he couldn't wait to be with her, about how soon he'd be free. When he finally came to bed an hour later, he smelled like the cologne I'd bought him and the lies he'd told. He slid in next to me, and I felt his hand reach for me out of habit. I let him spoon me, his arm heavy across my waist, his breath warm on my neck. It should have felt safe, comforting. Instead, it felt like sleeping next to a stranger. A dangerous stranger who was planning to destroy my life. I waited until his breathing deepened and steadied, waited until I was sure he was truly asleep, and then I carefully extracted myself from his embrace and grabbed his phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking as I typed in his password, our anniversary, the date we'd promised forever to each other. The irony wasn't lost on me. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the cold tile floor.
His messages loaded, and my heart started pounding. I scrolled past conversations with coworkers, with his parents, with friends, all normal, all innocent, and then I found it. A number with no name, just 10 digits that represented the end of my marriage. I clicked on it and my world tilted. Messages, hundreds of them, going back months. 6 months, I realized as I scrolled, half a year of lies and stolen moments and declarations of love that used to be mine. Can't stop thinking about last night. You're everything I've ever wanted. I hate that I have to pretend when all I want is you. Soon, baby. Soon we'll be together for real. I scrolled faster, my eyes scanning words that cut deeper with each message. They had pet names, inside jokes, a whole relationship that had been built in the shadows of my marriage. He told her things he used to tell me, called her things he used to call me, made promises he'd broken with me. And then I found the photos. Her photos. The first one stopped me cold. She was beautiful. Young, probably mid-20s, long dark hair, perfect skin, bright eyes that looked at the camera with complete adoration. She was Korean, like me, but younger, prettier, unburdened by 8 years of marriage and compromise and slowly fading into comfortable invisibility. I clicked on another photo. Her in a coffee shop, smiling. The caption read, "Missing my favorite person. Can't wait for tonight." Another photo. Her in a black dress at some restaurant. Daniel's reflection visible in the window behind her. They looked happy. They looked like a couple. They looked like what we used to look like before we became routine. I kept scrolling, torturing myself, photo after photo of her life, her world, my husband fitting perfectly into both. A hiking trip where I could see his hand in the corner of the frame, a weekend getaway where his watch was visible in a mirror selfie, a concert where they were pressed close together in the crowd. And then I found it. The photo that made everything real. From 2 weeks ago. Her standing in front of a full-length mirror wearing black lace lingerie. The same lingerie from the box. The same gift I'd found in our closet. She'd already received it, already opened it, already worn it for him. The caption made bile rise in my throat. Best early Christmas gift ever. Thank you, my love. The comments from her friends rolled in. Who's the lucky guy? You look amazing. When do we get to meet him? Her responses were coy. Soon. He's worth the wait. I'm so happy. She didn't know, or if she did, she didn't care. She was in love, and love made people selfish, made them justify anything, made them willing to destroy someone else's life for their own happiness. I kept reading, kept scrolling, kept stabbing myself with truth after truth, and then I found the message that broke me. From Daniel, sent yesterday. Can't wait for Whistler next week. Just you and me, finally. No more hiding. I'm telling her after New Year's, I promise. This is the last holiday I'll spend pretending. By February, we'll be together for real. I love you so much, Sarah. You're my future. Sarah. Her name was Sarah. And Whistler. Our place. The place where he'd proposed, where we'd spent our first Christmas, where we'd talked about bringing our future children. He was taking her there, was going to recreate all our memories with her, was going to propose to her, probably in the same spot where he'd proposed to me, and then he was going to come home and ask for a divorce. After New Year's? After he'd extracted every last bit of holiday cheer from me, after I'd cooked and cleaned and played the perfect wife one last time, after he'd gotten what he needed from me, I took screenshots. Every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. I sent them all to my email, creating a folder labeled Evidence. Then I deleted the sent messages from his phone so he wouldn't know I'd been snooping. I sat there in the bathroom floor for a long time after that, just staring at the tile, feeling nothing and everything at once. Numb and devastated. Angry and broken. Betrayed and somehow weirdly liberated. Because now I knew. Now I had proof. Now I could stop wondering and start planning. I put his phone back exactly where I'd found it and slipped back into bed. Daniel stirred when I got in, but didn't wake. Just pulled me close again, his arm possessive even in sleep. His wife. His comfortable, convenient wife, who cooked his meals and warmed his bed and asked no questions while he built a whole other life behind her back.
But not anymore. Now I knew about Sarah, and knowledge was power. And I was going to use every bit of that power to make sure that when this marriage ended, I wouldn't be the only one left bleeding. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering more information. Tomorrow, I'd find out everything about Sarah Chen. Tomorrow, I'd begin planning my revenge. But tonight, I just lay there in the dark, Daniel's arms around me, and I let myself feel the full weight of betrayal. Let myself mourn the marriage I thought I had. Let myself grieve the man I thought he was. Because tomorrow, Minzio, the trusting wife, would be gone, and someone much more dangerous would take her place. The next morning, I woke before Daniel. The first rays of sunlight were creeping through our curtains, painting everything in shades of gray and gold. He was still asleep, his face peaceful, completely unburdened by guilt or regret. I watched him for a moment, this stranger in my bed, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just cold determination. I got up quietly and went downstairs, made coffee, started breakfast. Not because I wanted to, but because that's what the old Minzio would do. And I needed him to think I was still her, still the trusting wife, still the woman who suspected nothing. When he came down an hour later, showered and dressed for work, I had eggs and toast waiting. He kissed my cheek, grabbed a plate, and thanked me like this was just another normal morning, like last night hadn't happened, like I hadn't spent hours reading messages to his mistress while he slept peacefully next to me. "Working today?" I asked casually, sipping my coffee. "Just for a few hours," he said. "Need to tie up some loose ends before the new year." Loose ends. Is that what I was now? A loose end to be tied up and discarded? "I'll probably be home late," he continued. "Maybe grab dinner with some clients." Clients. Sarah, same thing, apparently. "Okay," I said. "I might meet Ji-ho for lunch anyway." He barely looked up from his phone. "Sounds good, babe." Babe. The casual endearment felt like mockery. I wasn't his babe. Sarah was his babe. I was just the inconvenience he hadn't gotten rid of yet. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and my coffee, and I got to work. I had her first name from the messages, Sarah, and I had her photos. That was enough to start. I created a fake Facebook account, a fake Instagram, fake everything. Generic photos stolen from stock image sites. A name that sounded real but meant nothing. Emma Park. Simple. Forgettable. Perfect. I searched for Sarah, scrolling through dozens of profiles, until I found her. Sarah Chen. 26 years old, lives in Vancouver, works in marketing, originally from Toronto. Her profile was semi-public, just private enough to seem cautious, but open enough that I could see plenty.
"How was work?" I asked. "Long," he said. "Tiring. I'm beat." He went straight upstairs without kissing me, without asking about my day, without even really looking at me. I was already a ghost to him, already erased from his future. He just hadn't bothered to tell me yet. I followed him up later and found him already in bed, scrolling through his phone, a small smile playing on his lips. texting her, probably, telling her he missed her, making plans for Whistler, counting down the days until he could finally be free. I got ready for bed mechanically and climbed in beside him. He put his phone down and rolled over, his back to me. No good night, no I love you, just silence and distance and the ghost of who we used to be. I lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe, and I thought about tomorrow, about meeting Sarah, about looking her in the eye and smiling while my world burned, about playing a role so convincing she'd never suspect, about gathering information, building my case, preparing for war. Because that's what this was now, war, and I was going to win. The next morning, I dressed carefully. The blue jacket fit perfectly. The makeup made me look fresh, energetic, younger than my 32 years. I looked like Emma Park, whoever she was, a friend of Daniel's, someone harmless and well-meaning and completely unthreatening. Daniel had already left for work when I came downstairs. There was a note on the counter. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." I crumpled the note and threw it away. Liar. He wasn't working late. He was probably meeting Sarah, spending time with her before their big Whistler trip, before he finally worked up the courage to end our marriage. But he didn't know I knew, didn't know I was already 10 steps ahead of him, didn't know that while he was planning his exit, I was planning my revenge. I drove to Yaletown early, parked a few blocks away, and walked to the cafe. It was one of those trendy places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs and $20 avocado toast, the kind of place young people went to be seen, the kind of place Sarah probably frequented. I ordered a green tea and sat by the window watching people pass by, young professionals hurrying to meetings, mothers pushing strollers, tourists taking photos, everyone living their normal lives, completely unaware that mine was disintegrating. At exactly 2 o'clock, she walked in, and my breath caught, because photos didn't do her justice. Sarah Chen was stunning. Long dark hair that fell in perfect waves, flawless skin, bright eyes, a smile that lit up the entire room. She was wearing jeans and a cream sweater, simple and effortless, and she looked like every man's dream. I understood then, understood why Daniel had risked everything for her. She wasn't just beautiful. She had this energy, this light that drew people in. She was young and vibrant and full of life, everything I used to be before marriage and routine had dulled my edges. She spotted me and waved, walking over with that bright smile. "Emma?" I stood and shook her hand. "Sarah, thanks so much for meeting me." "Of course." Her enthusiasm was infectious. I love planning surprises. "What were you thinking?" We sat down and I watched her order a latte with oat milk and an extra shot. She told the barista about her day, made a joke that made him laugh, tipped generously. She was charming, effortless, exactly the kind of person people wanted to be around.
So I said, pulling out a notebook to look official, I was thinking we could do something at his favorite restaurant, maybe? Or something more low-key? She leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. Oh, Daniel would love something intimate. He's not really a big party person. Maybe a dinner with close friends? He talks about his wife all the time, so obviously she should be there. My blood ran cold. His wife. Me. She knew I existed. Daniel had told her about me. What else has he said? I asked carefully. About his wife. Sarah's expression softened. He said they're going through a rough patch, that they've grown apart. He feels really guilty about it, you can tell. He's such a good guy, you know? Even when things are hard, he still cares about her. A rough patch. Grown apart. That's how he'd framed it. Not, I'm cheating. Not, I've fallen in love with someone else. Just, we've grown apart. Passive. Blameless. Like our marriage had simply expired on its own with no help from him. That must be hard, I said, for everyone involved. She nodded.
and I saw real sympathy in her eyes. It is, but I think they'll both be happier in the long run, you know? Sometimes love fades. Sometimes people need to move on. Sometimes people cheat and lie and destroy their vows, but sure, let's call it love fading. Has he mentioned what he's planning to do? I asked. About his marriage? Sarah bit her lip, looking suddenly uncertain. I don't want to overshare. He's my friend, and I don't want to betray his confidence. Friend. Is that what they were calling it? Of course, I said quickly. I understand. I just want to make sure I'm not planning a party during a difficult time. She relaxed. He said he's going to have a conversation with her after the new year, make everything official. It's been a long time coming, I think. He just wants to do it respectfully. Respectfully. Taking her to Whistler while we were still married was respectful. Buying her lingerie and calling her his only one was respectful. Planning his future with her while sleeping next to me every night was respectful. But I smiled. I nodded. I played my part. That's very mature of him. He is, she said, and her whole face softened. He's honestly the most amazing person I've ever met. Kind, thoughtful, funny. The way he talks about his work, his friends, his family. He's just special, you know? She was in love with him. Completely, totally in love with him. It was written all over her face, in every word she said, in the way she lit up when she talked about him. And maybe she didn't know the full truth, but she knew enough. Knew he was married. Knew he hadn't left yet. And she was waiting, patient and hopeful, and convinced that love would conquer all. How did you two meet? I asked, even though I already knew from the messages. Through work, she said. I do marketing for one of his clients. We just clicked, you know. Started as friends, then became really close. He's been such a great mentor for my career. Mentor. Right. I'm sure that's what they did in hotel rooms and weekend getaways. Career mentorship. We talked for another 30 minutes. She told me about Daniel's favorite foods, his favorite music, places he liked to go. She knew him intimately. Knew things I'd forgotten or stopped noticing years ago. It was like listening to someone describe a man I used to know, but had lost touch with somewhere along the way. When we said goodbye, she hugged me. Thanks so much for including me. Daniel's going to love whatever you plan. You're a really good friend. Friend. The word echoed as I watched her walk away, her long hair swaying, her steps light and happy. She had no idea. She just had coffee with Daniel's wife. No idea that everything she thought she knew was about to implode. No idea that I was about to destroy the fantasy she'd been living in.
I sat back down and finished my tea, my hands surprisingly steady. I'd done it. I'd looked my husband's mistress in the eye and smiled. I'd gathered information. I'd confirmed what I already suspected. And most importantly, I'd proven to myself that I could do this, could play this game, could be strategic instead of emotional. My phone buzzed. A text from Jihei. Got that information you wanted. Can you talk? I called her immediately. Okay, she said, and I could hear papers rustling. Sarah Chen, 26 years old, born in Toronto, moved to Vancouver 3 years ago, works at Bright Ideas Marketing as a senior strategist. Good at her job, apparently, gotten 2 promotions in 3 years. No criminal record, no red flags. Social media is pretty active, lots of photos of food, friends, travel. She seems nice, actually. Min, are you going to tell me what this is about? I took a deep breath. Daniel's having an affair with her. Silence. Then, what? I found evidence, messages, photos, everything. He's planning to leave me after New Year's. He's taking her to Whistler next week. More silence. Then Jihei said quietly, I'm coming over. No, I said quickly, not yet. I need to handle this my way.
I need you to trust me. Min, this is insane. You should confront him. You should... I will, I interrupted, but on my terms, when I'm ready. I just need you to be there when it all falls apart, okay? Can you do that for me? A long pause. Then, okay, but Min, be careful. Don't do anything crazy. I won't, I promised. Even though I had no idea what I was going to do. Even though crazy was starting to sound pretty appealing. I drove home, my mind racing. I had all the pieces now. I knew who she was. I knew what Daniel had told her. I knew the timeline. I knew everything. Now I just needed to decide what to do with that information. When Daniel came home that night, later than usual, smelling like her perfume, I was ready. "Hey," I said from the couch. "How was your day?" "Long," he said, not even looking at me as he headed for the stairs. "Wait," I called. "Can we talk?" He turned, and I saw something flicker across his face. Fear? Guilt? Now? "Yeah," I said, patting the couch next to me. "It's important." He came and sat down, keeping distance between us. His whole body was tense, ready to run or fight or lie, whatever he needed to survive this moment. "I've been thinking," I said slowly, "about us, about our marriage." His eyes widened slightly. "Min." "Let me finish," I said. "We've been together 8 years, and I think we both know things haven't been great lately." He relaxed a little. "Where are you going with this?" "I'm saying maybe we should talk about it. Really talk about what we want, about where we're going. I think we owe each other that honesty." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You're right. We should talk. But maybe not tonight. I'm exhausted." "Of course," I said. "After New Year's?" "Yeah," he said quickly. "After New Year's. We'll sit down and really discuss everything." After New Year's. Right after he got back from Whistler with Sarah. Right after he'd made his choice. Right when he'd planned to ask for the divorce anyway. Perfect. "Sounds good," I said and smiled. He stood up, clearly relieved to escape. "I'm going to shower and head to bed. Long day tomorrow." I watched him go and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction, because I knew something he didn't. I knew his plan, I knew his timeline, I knew everything, and that meant I could control when and how this marriage ended. Not him, me. I waited until he was in the shower, then I went to his briefcase, found his calendar, and there it was, written in his neat handwriting. Whistler, December 28th to 30th. 3 days at our special place with his mistress. 3 days to say goodbye to 8 years of marriage. But here's what Daniel didn't know. Here's what Sarah didn't know. Here's what nobody knew except me.
I wasn't going to wait until after New Year's for that conversation. I wasn't going to let him have his romantic getaway while I sat at home like an idiot. I wasn't going to be the last one to know my marriage was over. I was going to Whistler too. And I was going to end this my way, on my terms, with my rules. Because if this marriage was going down, I was taking Daniel down with it. And Sarah Chen, sweet, innocent Sarah, who thought she was in love, was about to learn that stealing someone's husband comes with consequences. I smiled as I closed his briefcase. Let him think he was in control. Let him think he'd won. Let him have 2 more days of believing his plan was working. Because on December 28th, in Whistler, and the place where he'd promised me forever, I was going to show him exactly what happens when you betray Min Seo Kim. And it wasn't going to be pretty. "You didn't mention a gift for me," I said suddenly. The words came out before I could stop them. He looked up, fork halfway to his mouth. "What?" "A gift for Christmas. You didn't say anything about it." His eyes shifted, just for a second, but I saw it. "Oh, well, I wanted it to be a surprise. You'll get it later, after everyone leaves." A lie. He was scrambling. He'd forgotten about getting me a gift because he'd been too busy shopping for her, too busy planning their romantic Christmas Eve together.
too busy betraying his marriage vows. "I can't wait," I said sweetly. "I got you something special too." I hadn't, but watching him squirm was worth it. We finished breakfast in silence. He kept checking his phone, probably texting her, probably promising he'd see her soon, probably counting down the hours until he could escape his obligation to me and run back to her arms. After breakfast, I told him I needed to run to the store to grab something I'd forgotten for dinner. He offered to come with me, but I said I'd be quick. I needed to get out of that house, needed to breathe air that wasn't filled with his lies, needed to think without him watching me, analyzing me, wondering if I knew. I drove around Vancouver aimlessly at first, past the Christmas displays in Cole Harbor where the lights twinkled on the water, past Gastown where tourists were taking photos by the steam clock, past the skating rink at Robson Square where families were laughing together, stumbling on the ice, helping each other up. Everyone looked so happy, so blissfully unaware that their lives could shatter in a second, that the person sleeping next to them might be living a double life. That love could be a beautiful lie wrapped in pretty paper with a perfect bow. I ended up at the beach near Kitsilano, where Daniel and I used to go when we first started dating. We'd walk along the seawall, holding hands, talking about our dreams. He wanted to start his own company someday. I wanted to open a bakery, one that served both Western pastries and Korean treats. We talked about babies, about buying a house with a big backyard, about growing old together. We'd believed in forever, or at least I had. It was freezing now, snow falling lightly, covering the sand in a thin white blanket. I got out of the car and walked to the water's edge. The ocean was gray and angry, waves crashing against the shore with a violence that matched what I felt inside. The wind whipped my hair around my face, stinging my eyes, making them water. Or maybe that was just more tears. I couldn't tell anymore. My phone rang. Daniel. I watched it ring once, twice, 3 times before answering. "Hey," I said, my voice nearly lost in the wind. "Where are you? Your mom just called. She's running early. She'll be here in an hour." An hour. I had 1 hour before I had to put on my perfect daughter mask, my perfect wife mask, my perfect everything mask. 1 hour before I had to pretend that my world wasn't falling apart. 1 hour before I had to smile and laugh and act like Christmas was magical instead of the day I discovered my husband's affair. "I'm on my way," I said, and hung up before he could respond. I stood there for another minute, watching the waves, feeling the cold seep into my bones. Part of me wanted to walk into that water and keep walking, just disappear. Let the ocean swallow me whole, let this pain end. But I didn't. Because I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to let him destroy me. I was stronger than that. I had to be. When I got home, Daniel was vacuuming the living room. The house smelled like pine from the small tree we'd put up last week. We decorated it together, playing Christmas music, drinking hot chocolate. He'd lifted me up to put the star on top, and I'd laughed so hard my stomach hurt. That was only a week ago. How had I not seen it then? How had I not noticed that his smile didn't quite reach his eyes? That his laugh sounded forced? That he was already halfway gone? Everything looked perfect now. Picture perfect. Instagram perfect. The kind of perfect that people scroll past and feel envious of. Look at this beautiful couple and their beautiful home having their beautiful Christmas. If only they knew. If only anyone knew that perfection was just another word for lie. My mother arrived exactly an hour later, her arms full of Tupperware containers. She'd been cooking for days. Chapchae, bulgogi, kimchi jjigae, and about 10 other dishes. She always made too much food, always worried we weren't eating enough. It was her love language. Food meant safety, meant abundance, meant she could take care of her family even from across town.
Every meal was a prayer. Every dish was proof that love existed, even when life tried to convince you it didn't. I remembered that the night I found the gold box, remembered how I'd planned that perfect Christmas dinner, bulgogi, bibimbap, kimchi, while my husband was planning to leave me, while my best friend was counting down the days until she could have him,
Food had been my way of saying, I love you, while they were busy destroying what that meant. But here's what I learned. Love language only works when both people understand the same words. Thomas spoke lies. Rachel spoke seduction, and I spoke in dishes that nobody was eating anymore because nobody was home. So I stopped cooking. Instead, I cooked for myself. Made meals that tasted like freedom, like survival, like the woman I was becoming, someone who fed her own soul before trying to feed anyone else's. 1 year later, I was in my new kitchen in my new house. My children were laughing in the living room, and I was making chilkuk, the same dish my mother had made for me every New Year's, the same dish I'd stopped making when I got married, because Thomas preferred simpler foods. Jason came running. Oma, what's that smell? Home, I said. It's what home smells like. I ladled the soup into bowls, watching the rice cakes float in the warm broth, the egg ribbons catching the light. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone. This was about remembering who I was before someone else tried to define me through their lies. The gold-wrapped box had destroyed my marriage, but it had saved my life. Because once I stopped cooking for someone who didn't deserve it, I started cooking for myself, and that, I realized, was the real gift all along. Food meant safety, and for the first time since I'd found that box, I felt safe.